again, my little yarnivores and spiderettes. Fiber Spider back again with a continuation of the 3D cluster stitch hat. That's a mouthful. And we are on round 6. Thank you for joining me, by the way. I appreciate it. I love the company. Okay, so we're on round 6. Now, this is actually a treat because from here on out, we're just going to be repeating the same round over and over and over. Prior to this, there was a lot of funky, wonky, crazy increasing going on, but guess what? We're in the home stretch. Yes, we are. In fact, we really don't even need these markers anymore, but we did need them initially because it was very important to keep track of where we were. So last time we left off by doing a slip stitch to the last of our front post double crochet. So we're going to turn the work and slip stitch into the first 2 stitches. Like so, and then chain up 1, and around this first stitch, front post, double crochet, into the chain 1 space, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and then front post around the next stitch. Okay, moving right along. Footloose and fancy free. Okay, going to skip these next 2 stitches, and around this next stitch, front post, and into the chain 1 space, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and then front post around the next stitch. Skip the next 2 stitches, front post around the next stitch, and into the chain 1 space, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and then front post. And guess what? You can take that marker out, you can kiss it goodbye, you can write it a letter if you want to. All right, and that was our first of the corners where we had the 3 clusters, and now they're more evenly spaced. They're not so scrunched together. And so we're going to continue on and skipping the next 2 double crochets, going into that next stitch with a front post and into the chain 1 space, double, chain 1, double, and front post into the next stitch. Okay, gotta pull out more yarn. There we go. Okay, and then again, skipping those next 2 stitches, front post in the next stitch, and into the chain 1 space, double, chain 1, double, and front post around the next stitch, skip the next 2 stitches, front post around the next stitch, into the chain 1 space, double, chain 1, double, there we go. A little bit of a tangle. Okay, got that. Alrighty, then skipping the next 2, going into the next one with a front post into the chain 1 space, double, chain 1, double, front post around the next stitch, skip the next 2 stitches, front post around the next, into the chain 1 space, double, chain 1, double, front post around the next, skip the next 2 stitches, front post around the next, into the chain one space, double, chain one, double. Okay, and front post around the next. And I can get rid of these markers as well. Toodaloo and sayonara. There we go. Okay, we've got 2 more to go. And this is really the part in the pattern where it flies by. I love it. Okay, so skip the next 2 stitches. Front post in the next, into the chain one space, double, chain one, double, front post into the next, skip the next 2, front post into the next, into the chain one space, double, chain one, double, front post into the next, skip 2, front post into the next, into the chain one space, double, chain one, double, front post around the next, skip the next 2, front post around the next, double, chain one, double into the chain one space, front post around the next. Okay. Skip the next 2, front post around the next, into the chain one space, double, chain one, double. Front post around the next. Skip the next 2, front post around the next, into the chain one space, double, chain one, double. And around the next one, front post. There we go. And then last but not least, slip to the front post. Alrighty. Okay, so that actually concludes round 6. I'm going to take out my markers because we really don't need them anymore. It's a beautiful thing. And so as you can see, it really does create a nice round shape, in spite of the fact that we started off with just 5 points. Looks sort of like a little snowflake, even though snowflakes typically are 6-pointed, typically, not always. All right, so from here, actually, all of the remaining rounds are going to be exactly the same, quite simply. And then after doing a bunch of these rounds with these ridges, and I'm going to go into that in a bit, we can then do the brim. But what I'd like to do is to show you how you would go about starting off, say, round 7, even though it's just a repeat of round 6. So I'm going to get myself situated, and then I'll show you what to do for the next bunch of rounds. Okay, so I'm going to start a repeat of round 6. I'm not going to do the whole round because it's, at this point, fairly self-explanatory. Can't speak. Okay, so I did my slip stitch from the previous round. I'm going to turn the work and slip stitch into the first 2 stitches, like so. Then chain up 1 and into that first stitch, front post, and into the chain 1 space. You know what to do. Double, chain 1, double. And front post around the next stitch. skipping the next two, front post into the chain one space, double, chain one, and double, front post around the next. So basically, we are not increasing anymore at this point. We are just doing clusters on top of clusters, okay? Which basically just consists of front post, double, chain one, double, front post, skipping two, same thing over and over again. And then when you have gone all the way around, you would be doing a cluster into this cluster and then slip stitching to the top of this first front post double crochet. All right, easy enough. Okay, so then what you're going to want to do is do enough of these rounds to build up the body of your hat. Now, what I have found, okay, is when I did mine, now this initial center point, we have a ridge here, as you can see. You know, this being the ridge. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. This being the ridge here, okay? And once you reach that final ridge, okay, that is when you start to do the actual brim, okay, which we have down here. And you would swap out for your smaller needle. Now, if that's a little too blinding for you, let's do this one instead. I know this is a very busy colorway, but you can sort of see that we have a ridge and then another ridge. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry. Where's the actual top here? Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so you can just sort of see a ridge here. So once you reach that 6 ridges, okay, then we would continue on with the ribbing. Now, of course, if you want to do a slouchy hat, or if you like this particular edge, hey, keep it. Don't do a brim, with the ribbing. That's fine too. But for me personally, for a quote unquote adult sized hat, this worked out best for me. So keep going with your rounds in the same fashion that I've shown you, and I will meet back up with you to show you how to do the brimming. All right, so hop to, get stitching, and I'll see you in a bit. I'm back. All right, peoples. So I've been stitching right along, and because we weren't doing any increasing, it creates this cup shape. Now, so to give you the lowdown, looking at the very, very tippy top, we have 1 ridge, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. This is the 6th ridge that I was talking about before. It's a lot easier to see with this color. And the last row that I did ended with the tail as the right side. And by the way, I am switching over to my smaller sized hook. And I did the slip stitch to the top of that first front post stitch there. So what we're going to do is, after grabbing our yarn and turning the work right side out, going to turn the work, and we are going to commence with doing our edging. Yes. Okay, so now the best thing to do, I find, is to slip stitch into that first stitch. Now, prior to now, we slip stitched into the first 2. This, well, we only really need to do 1 here. So from here, we're just going to be doing double crochets all the way around. So what I find works best is to chain up 2, and then double crochet your first double crochet into the first stitch. The chaining up of 2 doesn't count as a double crochet, just to give us the height that we need, and it acts as sort of a filler. So I'm going to do our first double into that stitch there. Okay, and then double into the double, and then a double into that chain 1 space, fill it in. Okay, and then we have 4 double crochets in quick succession because we don't have any chain spaces in between those. So just do a double for every double, and then when you reach the chain space, do a double inside of that all the way around. Real simple, real easy. And this is going to create the foundation for the ribbing, which will come in the next bunch of rounds. And of course, like I said, if you don't want to do a ribbing, you don't have to. It's just something that I like to do on most of my crocheted or knitted hats. Or, like I said, also, if you want to have this as the edge, the brim to your hat, hey, more power to you. But I like to give you options if I can. So I'm going to go all the way around doing just my regular double crochets, and I will meet back up with you when I reach the end of the round. All right, so I'm almost to the end. So you guys know I like to do sort of a catching up with you before I go on to the next thing. So just gonna work my way to the end of the round, and then we shall slip stitch and then continue on our merry little way. If I can get there. And so I've got 2 more. There, and there. Okay. There we go. And then slip stitch. See, this was our chaining up of 2. We're going into the top of this first double crochet right here, like so. And there you go. A nice clean join. Da-da-da-dum. Okay, so now we're going to get into the front and back post ribbing, which I'm a big fan of. Okay, so now to do the ribbing, again, chain up 2. And this was our chaining up 2. So this is our first double crochet that we're going to do a front post. And then next up, back post. So going around the back, after yarning over around the back, catch the post, pull the yarn through. Back posts, I think, are always more difficult than the front posts. That's just me. All right, then front post. But I think it is well worth it, and it's only the ribbing. It's not the whole hat, so it's not that bad. So you're just going back and forth, alternating between front posts and back posts all the way around. And this will create a really nice, solid looking brim. And if you want the brim to be a little bit tighter, I would suggest going down a hook size from where we're at with the eye. It's really a matter of personal preference and feel, and of course, your tension. So that's really what you do for the rest of this round. And then when you reach the end, you would slip stitch to that top of the front post double crochet, not this chain 2, but this front post here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to work my way all the way around and show you what I'm talking about, and that will pretty much wrap things up. Okay, I'll be right back. All right, so I'm almost done with this first round of ribbing. And just wanted to show you the join up and then how to continue on for really however many rounds you want. Me, personally, I only did 2 rounds of ribbing for the examples that I showed earlier. So, got my back post, There we go. And we are just about there. Now, I could do a front post around here, which really wouldn't mess things up as far as I'm concerned. You know, if you're off by one for a perfect rib, it's okay. You can have this in the back. So then from here, again, skipping this little 2 chain here, going into the front post double crochet with a slip stitch. There we go. See, it looks pretty seamless. I think it looks good. Okay, so then from here, what you're going to do, if you want to do more subsequent rounds, chain up 2, and then around this front post here, do your front post double crochet, and then continue on doing back posts for every back post and front posts for every front post. Really that simple. And then when you finish the round, slip stitch to the top of the first front post double crochet, and there you go. I mean, it really depends on how wide you want your brim. That is, of course, if you want a brim at all. You know, that's up to you. So, that being said, that pretty much concludes our tutorial for today. And of course, you know, you snip off your yarn, you sew in your ends when you're done, and you end up with a gorgeous squishy hat. Absolutely love it. I hope you like it too. And if you did like this tutorial, hey, don't hesitate. Give me a little thumbs up button down below, and make something nice and warm and squishy for yourself or for somebody you love. And also do hit subscribe, because I try to post videos often, whether it's crocheting or knitting or audiobook narration, or of course my other YouTube channel, Fiber Spider Games, where I do video game playthrough and commentary. And yeah, that pretty much wraps it up for this tutorial. But you know what I'm going to say. Until next time, I want all of you to stay inspired, stay caffeinated, stay stitching, and stay safe. Take care of yourselves and each other. I love you guys, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye for now.